Before we get into the 5 things we learned from Manchester United 1, Manchester City 3, I want to talk about Gary Neville, Roy Keane and Paul Scholes' comments. I also want to talk upon news that INEOS have already secretly decided to sack Ten Hag. I want to talk about all the latest news, and should Ten Hag be sacked or not. In my opinion, I'd like him to be given time, but I will give you my more detailed opinion on how I feel about Ten Hag in a second. But Paul Scholes said this: I think INEOS have already made their minds up, and I don't think Ten Hag will be here next season. I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking for a new manager now. We have been linked to several new managers, but Fabrizio Romano did say a lot of it is agent talk. Gary Neville said, I suspect Sir Jim and Dave Brailsford already know whether Erik Ten Hag will be manager next season. I can't believe that they're going to wait till May to make that decision and leave themselves short. It was said by Gary Neville that Erik Ten Hag has a game against Manchester City today and then 2 against Liverpool next month. He will be judged on those matches. INEOS aren't going to wait to the end of the season to make a decision. They're going to be making one soon. INEOS maybe might have not made a decision just yet, but they're going to make one soon. And when you think of the players that are injured, the players that are missing, the big games we have coming up, it doesn't look like there's much hope for Erik Ten Hag to get results. So INEOS have already decided they're going to keep Ten Hag and back him for another year. He's safe. But if INEOS are really making their decision based off now on what they're seeing, he might not be safe. Now, I've always said on the manager situation, I think the biggest problem is the environment. The environment of the club. So Jim Ratcliffe said when he was asked about Ten Hag, the biggest problem is the environment, because loads of successful managers haven't been successful at United. So maybe the club is the problem. The club is the problem. Sacking managers every 2 years. We need to give managers time. Arteta and Klopp got time. I think the lack of structure, the poor recruitment, the players we had available on the bench and starting 11 versus Manchester City was a result of not just injuries, but poor recruitment, a mix of players with mixed abilities that can play different ways. So I felt like that squad we played Manchester versus Manchester City was never going to be able to compete versus Man City. But when you're getting outplayed by Fulham and when you're getting outplayed by Luton, that's when you look at Ten Hag and say, look, you've got all these key players injured, but we shouldn't be getting outplayed by Fulham and Luton. I can understand getting outplayed by Man City with the squad we had available, but Fulham and Luton, they're the games where I'm more judgmental. Ten Hag needs to do better rather than big games like City Liverpool, because we cannot compete with City Liverpool, but we should be able to comfortably compete with Fulham and Luton. That's what worries me when we lose to the lesser teams rather than the big teams. It's also been mentioned that obviously we have an injury crisis, which is going to make things a lot harder for Ten Hag. And he had a good first season. He proved what he's done at Ajax. We know there's a good manager, and we know under a good system, a good structure, Ten Hag has been a good manager, and he has the capabilities to do it at United, because he did really over succeed in his first season, but he's taken a massive step back now. And I don't think that any manager would be getting Man United playing good football. I don't think any manager could get the current crop of players we have available playing good football. I think we could be playing better than we're playing, and we could have had a bit more of a threat and attack versus Man City. But I don't think any manager would get that squad playing good football, because it doesn't have the capabilities in possession to play any kind of attacking style of football. In terms of the negatives on Ten Hag, as I said, I'm more concerned about the performances against the likes of Fulham. I mean, Luton, we won the game, but I don't think we played well. But also, we did actually do enough to score 5 goals. So Luton wasn't too worrying, but more worried about like the performances versus the likes of Fulham than I am versus Man City, because I think we shouldn't be getting outplayed that badly by Fulham. But I understand getting outplayed that badly by City. I think that Ten Hag's decision-making stubbornness can be costly. Forson is not better than Ahmad. Forson is not better than Ahmad. Ahmad is probably better than Anthony, but Ahmad can't touch the pitch. I think decision making from Ten Hag's iffy, and I think the rest defence is iffy. I think we've had this problem all season. I don't know if it's because we just don't have the players that can press consistently, because Rangnick got us playing really good football for 30 minutes and then the players gave up and couldn't do it anymore. I don't know if and we only see the press work sometimes and the rest defence work sometimes. Is it to do with the players having a lack of athleticism to press and play the way Ten Hag wants? Can Ten Hag not coach this? I don't know, but the rest defence is an issue. But what else did Gary Neville say on Erik Ten Hag? Gary Neville said last week against Fulham was more of a problem than today, which I agree with. Today was likely going to end in defeat. Villa play Spurs next week and both could drop points, so United could get close. There's still hope for United, but they're inconsistent. That's the thing. I don't want to lose to City and I don't want to lose to Liverpool, but I know that realistically we're going to lose. It's the games like Fulham, when we lose to them, when we get outplayed by them, where it's a problem. He said United can get close, and I still think there's a long way to go after the March internationals are running, where Villa and Spurs have got to go. So there's still hope for United, but they're inconsistent, and I think we're not going to get top 5. I don't think we're going to be in the Champions League. Top 5 can get us in the Champions League. I think we can finish 6th. I think Newcastle are getting better. I think they're one to watch out for. I think we can definitely finish 6th, but I don't think we're going to get top 5. Villa and Spurs are a lot better than us. Roy Keane said the problem is that United team is still about moments, and when you've invested all that money and the quality you have is that you need a bit more, which is true. We've invested so much money, but we're relying on moments. We're still not a team. We've not built a team. We're building a team of moments because we've built a team to play one way, then we've built a team to play another way, and then some players haven't been good enough, other players haven't been good enough, other players have been injured, some players have attitude problems. We've just got this whole mix. And Roy Keane said it's more the games we've seen over the last few months where United have lacked consistency of performance. United have just been digging out results, and it eventually catches up with you. The bigger picture is you need more. And I agree. I think versus Luton, versus Aston Villa, we didn't really play great. We dug out results, but I think versus Aston Villa, I see them as almost like a Manchester City. That was all about finding a way to get a result. We did that well. Versus Luton, I actually think that Luton were the better team for 90% of the game, but we actually had enough to score 4 goals and could have won that game 4-1. But I think the performance isn't sustainable, which is the biggest concern. But I am Ten Hag in because I think for me, just get the players out, change the structure, because I think the players are the bigger problem. But I do think the players give 100%, and I do want to get to 5 things we learned because there was some players that impressed me. So this section of the video is 5 things we learned from Manchester United 1, Man City 3, and I thought Diogo Dalot was very, very good again. Diogo Dalot was one of the only players, if not the only player in the defensive line that could play the ball out. Manchester United were pinned back into not even our half, our own third by Manchester City. We could not play out, we could not complete passes. We were really struggling to play out from our own third, keep the ball for more than a few seconds because of the lack of quality we have in possession. A lot of these players are not technically good in possession. A lot of these players aren't press resistant. Diogo Dalot's ability to keep the ball at his feet, and whether that's break lines, whether that's do some quick 1-2s, whether that's progress the ball, was something we needed. Diogo Dalot was so comfortable in possession. When he was playing left back, he was inverting, he was coming inside. When he was going right, he was doing quick 1-2s, moving up the pitch. He was one of the only players that, like him and Kobbie Mainoo, were the only players in that squad that could keep the ball at their feet and actually get through the Manchester City line of defence and break those lines to progress the ball without losing it. Not only that, I think defensively he put in a great performance. He was playing really well on the right-hand side, then he had to switch to the left-hand side. As soon as he switched to the left-hand side, Foden went on the right and scored there on the right. He kept Doku quiet all game. As soon as he went to the left, he kept Bernardo Silva's on the left quiet. Foden was cooking Lindelof there. They obviously switched because they saw that Dalot switch. That was quite smart from Pep. But defensively, he was good. Going forward, he was good. As our best player in possession. I have been really impressed with Dalot lately. The second thing I want to talk about is bench depth is shocking. And despite the fact that we shouldn't be getting dominated that badly by Man City, I expected us to be dominated, but not to an extent where they had an XG of like 4 and we had an XG of 0.02, and they had 30 shots to our 3. We had the least shots against Man City, which is unacceptable. I do look at bench depth and I say, look, Garnacho and Rashford have really demanding roles. And people don't understand that Garnacho and Rashford's demanding role was they had to do intense sprints. So by the end of the game, they can't do that. Their legs are gone. But we didn't have anyone else that was able to do that intense sprint if we did win the ball at 1-1 and we could maybe get them on the counter and win 2-1. Anthony, I thought we needed him for the legs, but he's not good in transition. He's not quick. Amari Forson's not a winger, and I think Ahmad is better. Willy Kambwala had to come on out of position, and he's 18. And Amrabat had to come on out of position. We had 2 players that had to come on out of position, and we had Anthony come on that isn't good enough and Forson that came on that isn't good enough. You look at the bench depth, you change that game at 1-1 and it is shocking. And that's why I have sympathy with Ten Hag with the injuries, because there's not much Ten Hag can do. We need to be doing better against the likes of Fulham and stuff, but when these are your bench options versus Manchester City, I wouldn't really expect any manager to win. And that's not me making a massive excuse for Ten Hag, because I think he needs to do better in certain games. But I wouldn't expect many managers to win because that is some poor bench option. I think H summed it up perfectly. New outlets post Rashford sub killed us. 0 threat behind, 0 target to aim forward, long balls over the top. That's where I sympathise with the injuries for Ten Hag. Still at the same time, we've sold one of the biggest threats in behind the high line to Forest, refused to use Ahmad, and Forster's not a winger, and Anthony offers nothing in transition. The squad is not bent to one certain game model. They are just players for retention, counter-attack, high press. It's just a mess. And he's right. We don't have players to play one specific way. We've got players to play 3 or 4 ways. And what the players that can be a threat in transition, Elanga, we sold. Anthony isn't a threat in transition. Forson is not a winger. And we're not using Ahmad. He's using Anthony and Forson over Ahmad. So you can blame that bit on Ten Hag, but actually, bench-wise, we can't do a lot. Third thing we learned is that Varane has to stay. If Varane goes on a free, we are crazy. Varane had a brilliant game against Day. He was playing with a knock and putting in a shift at centre back. He's had Evans next to him. He's had Shaw next to him. He's had Maguire next to him. He's had Martinez next to him. He's had Lindelof next to him. He's had Kambuala next to him. Every single game he's put in his shift, he's been a leader. He's only missed 5 games this season through injury. Another 5 goes on the bench because Ten Hag had his weird Johnny Evans obsession. But he's missed 5 games through injury all season, which is so much better than the rest of the squad. So you can't even say he's injury prone. And yes, he's on high wages. But when we've been that bad this season, we have so many players that aren't good enough. Why can't we just keep the player that's good enough and let him have one more year of high wages? Because he's a brilliant box defender, one of the best box defenders in the world. No defender has a higher aerial duel success rating than him this season. He's a great reader of the game. He's a great leader. And I think that he's got a good attitude despite rumours of a fallout with Ten Hag. The fourth thing we learned is we didn't really stand much of a chance, but what we saw was not good enough. We can't defend for 90 minutes and expect to win. And City dominated us to another level. Look, I thought the first 20 minutes was good. And then other than that, it was bad. And we didn't have a chance to win. You look at the quality of our line, you look at the quality of their lineup. No manager is going to get us dominating City and playing good football. City, we're always going to have possession. We're always going to have to sit back and hit them on the counter. And we do lack that quality. But when you look at the fact that look at our XG compared to their XG. Look at the fact that no teams had fewer shots versus Man City in the game. Even Sheffield United managed more shots versus Man City. And that is worrying. The fifth and final thing I want to speak about, and I spoke about this earlier, is that I just think the Fulham loss is more concerning. We didn't have much of a chance today. We should have been better, but at the end of the day, what more can Ten Hag do? I don't think any manager, whether Ten Hag sacked or not, is getting us a good result or a good performance versus City with that side. Injury crisis or not, I do think Ten Hag needs to do better against the smaller teams. I know that we've got problems. I'm more concerned about when we're playing and getting outplayed by Bournemouth and Fulham than I am by City. I expected to get outplayed by City. I'm not really that bothered. It's just a bit depressing how little threat we had. That doesn't concern me. It's like if we're playing like this against Bournemouth and Fulham, that's when it concerns me. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Bye.